Welcome back to On Point, Derby Report Edition. Ed DeRosa alongside James Scully, whose Derby Report has proven already quite popular as we're 100 days out from the Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve. And James, you were in Jamaica, I was in New Orleans and Arkansas, but for me, the West Coast horses, a big step forward is Instilled Regard, ships and wins the LeCompte, Marino ships and wins the Smarty Jones. Both horses have finished behind some good ones in California. To me, it looks like, I think it's a talented crop in general, but the West Coast certainly asserting itself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In still regard, 100% flattered both Solomini and McKenzie. McKenzie came back and won that sham, so super impressive. So there's no doubt that Los Alfa Futurity in December is turning out to be a dynamite race. I mean, even when I was watching at the time, those three, there was like a 30-length gap back to fourth place. So that really held up. And we got some horses in Florida with Good Magic training for his return, and Mask has looked good, but right now there's a lot of positive mojo for the California horses.
Yeah, and they've had some of the more, I don't want to say glamorous, but big name races to date. That'll change in early February with the Holy Bull. And is it the Withers is the next one?
Holy Bull, Withers, yes.
And one at Santa Anita as well. So we'll learn a little bit more about what the East Coast horses have to offer. And Todd Pletcher, he's had a couple pretty jazzy maiden allowance winners.
Yes.
Certainly when they step up to stakes, we'll see what that's about in the Sam F. Davis. But again, to me, the name I keep coming back to, and he's going to have a lot of work to do when he returns in April, but Gravitos, who won the race at Remington, finished ahead of both those winners, the Marino and Instilled Regard. So the class is really holding up from those West Coast horses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a shame that he had that knee chip surgery because, I was a little bit a fan of his off the Remington Park. Those are, you really had both those races with Gravitos shipping to Oklahoma at Remington and Still Regard shipping to New Orleans.
And Steve Asmussen, a trainer who looked poised maybe for a big weekend, had the favorite in Principe Guillermo, what is it?
Guillermo.
Yeah, thank you. In the LeCompte, he had New York Central in an allowance at Oaklawn, and then Combatant, who was not the favorite in the Southwest, but ran well. And Copper Bullet's one I'm excited to see return. He's back on the work tab. If there were a future wager on trainer, I'd be looking to back Asmussen, just knowing the kind of money the other trainers would take. I think he might be the value.
Yeah, absolutely, because Baffert and Pletcher would take all the money in that, and Asmussen, like you said, has a whole bunch of horses that are going to be, they're going to be running at Fairgrounds in Oaklawn, but he'll probably be shipping them out to other venues as well because he does have a loaded deck right now.
Yeah, and speaking of him shipping, we didn't get to this in our Pegasus pick, which is a piece of trivia since you mentioned it. Gunrunner going to be his first starter at Gulfstream in 9 years.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Certainly no aversion to shipping, but when you have your strings in Fairgrounds at Oaklawn, not a lot of reasons to have to go to Gulfstream. So that sort of, it makes sense, but still a shock that someone with his stock hasn't been there in so long.
Right.
So probably won't see him in the Florida Derby, but plenty of other talent. What else should we look for in the 2 weeks between now and the next points race?
Well, obviously, the two of the top contenders out west, Bolt d'Oro, he came down with a pulled muscle. He is expected to work this weekend, and Solomini had a fever, so he missed some days of training. And Baffert was saying last week he was expecting him to come back to the work tab. So definitely keeping an eye out on that before we get up on the Bob Lewis, which will be on February 3rd.
And speaking of Baffert, he did win with Marino in the Smarty Jones. A lot of chatter about how far he wants to go. He is by a Kentucky Derby winner, though. Where do you stand on that?
I was a little bit dubious, but you can't, like you said, being by Super Saver, and that, he's in a little bit the same boat as Uncontested last year because he had everything his own way, but I'm not saying he's going to, falter once he faces more pressure and longer distances necessarily. He just has to prove it to me.
Yeah, I agree, and it was a short field and the short stretch going a mile at Oaklawn, so a good box to check that he wanted a mile going 2 turns, but that's still a long way, but even a mile and an eighth 2-turn race. So we'll see what happens next. But like I said at the top, I think this is a good group.
Yeah, I agree. It's much deeper, better, more quality than last year.
And we still have Heaven Has My Nikki from Luch. Maybe a filly can make some noise. Would not shock me to see her nominated to the Triple Crown.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's not going to be scared like, somebody like Lucas won't be scared at all. I mean, a lot of these guys, there's no chance, no way. But it's always interesting when somebody has a good filly like that and isn't afraid to challenge them.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll see where she shows up next. We'll see where all these horses show up on the word tab, etc. And we'll follow your Derby report and learn some stuff and make some money in the futures.
All right, sounds good.
All right, that's it.